After WorkSite Exporter has been installed and integrated with the DeskSite or FileSite clients using the registry settings, launch the DeskSite or FileSite application and right-click on a workspace, folder, or other structure where WorkSite Exporter has been added within the registry. The Export Documents menu item will appear where it has been added within the string of commands in the registry. Click on Export Documents to display the WorkSite Exporter interface. The initial configuration of WorkSite Exporter is done through the Options dialog. Within this dialog, specific options can be set to control how exports are performed. For example, regulating whether or not searches are exported and whether or not search results are actually exported as well is an important aspect of configuration of the exporter. It is possible to configure searches to be exported merely to capture the metadata and security about the search structures. If that is not needed, then that doesn't need to be turned on. Actually, Export Documents is used to control whether or not documents are actually exported. If this is turned off, then metadata collection can happen for document metadata and security, but the documents themselves will not actually be exported as part of the export process. In general, only the latest version or the highest version of the document is exported as part of the export process. To force an export of all document versions, check the Force Export of All Document Versions button. Folders may also contain shortcuts to documents that exist in other databases. When the Export Documents linked by shortcuts is checked, those documents will be exported as physical files as they're pulled in from the other databases, rather than just skipped, which is the default behavior for shortcuts. Differential exporting allows WorkSite Exporter to only export content that has been changed as part of an export process. Differential exporting will be covered in another video. Document filters may also be defined to regulate which documents are exported or skipped as part of the export process. Filters will be covered in detail in another video. For all exports, it is necessary to configure the destination folder names. By default, the WorkSite Exporter will create subfolders based on the name of any workspace, tab, folder, or search that is exported. You can also add the description information to these path folder names and the unique ID if desired. But notice that there is an operating system limit on the maximum length of a path, so we generally recommend using the minimal amount of information necessary to uniquely capture tabs, folders, and searches. We can also truncate individual folder names to a maximum number of characters if necessary. It is required that the exported file information be configured before running any export. The exported file information will include the database name, the document number, and version if you want to guarantee unique files for every file that is exported. Since it is possible in WorkSite to have multiple documents with the same name, even if they're completely different documents, if unique identifiers like the document number and version are not captured in the exported file name, it is possible that later documents with the same name will overwrite previously exported documents. Similarly, if your system has multiple databases, since it is possible to have multiple documents with the same document number and version, DocAuto recommends including the database name in the file that is exported. Any other additional metadata can be added to the document as well. For example, the description or other information, the author name, and so on. Any metadata that's available on the document profile can be added to the exported file name. To add plain text into the file name, such as an underscore, simply type the underscore and click Add to add it to the list of items. That can be moved up or down using the Move buttons on the toolbar. Note that it is also possible to create subfolders using unique metadata on a document-by-document basis. For example, to create a subfolder for each author that has content in a particular folder, add a backslash to the list of metadata and put that before any piece of metadata you would like to turn into a subfolder. So in this example, I will create a subfolder for each author, then create the documents with the normal information in their file names. Again, because there is an operating system limit on the length of a file name, we have the option to truncate file names to a maximum number of characters. If you are not using guaranteed unique identifiers like document number, version, and database where needed, even if files have different descriptions, if they're truncated to a shorter length, it may be possible that a file will overwrite a previous file that has the same truncated file name. When files are exported, we can also set the date created and date accessed to be the actual file dates on the physical files, and we can use universal timecode or UTC offsets when setting that information as well. Logging settings are generally recommended for the export process. A valid log path should be specified for the exported log files. General information that can be captured within the log files for general exports, and then individual CSV file data for any additional metadata that is desired to be captured within the export process. Another video will show how to use the CSV data capture in greater detail. Once these options have been configured, the exporter is ready to use. When a user selects a structure to export, as long as they browse to a valid path for that export, all they have to do is click the Go button and the export process will proceed without any additional user input.